everybody. We are, of course, reading Farsighted by Emlyn Chand. One day I'll figure out how to say her name, and then I'll have to say sorry for getting it wrong like 600,000 million trillion times. Alright, so we're finally getting the truth from Alex's dad. If you're excited about Alex's dad not being a piece of shit, put your hands in the sky. I know I am. Maybe that's where Alex gets it from. Anyway, haha. I'm terrible. We're chapter 15. I really need to write down the page numbers. I'm really bad about that. I keep saying like, I'm going to write down the page number. And I never do. Because, of course, I don't. Why would I? But I really should. Okay. Let's do this. Let me turn the volume thingy. Let me see. La 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 la. Okay, there we go. Oh my gosh, if you don't stop moving, I will kick your butt. Stop. Okay, there we go. Stop. Okay, there we go. I worked out my karaoke machine thing. It took a while, but we're doing something. We're figuring it out. My friend is here with me too, so say hello. Chapter 15. The traveler must decide whether he will use his powers as a means to protect others or to subordinate them. Yeah, you rarely see this word, so when you do, it's like, what? Okay, his journey is picking up speed. Just when I think my life can't get any weirder, it does. I can't decide whether being a psychic magnet is more awesome or terrifying. It's one thing to read about this stuff in books or listen to it in the movies, but to actually become a superhero? Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. Sure, he can shoot webs and crawl up walls, but he can also use a group of psychomaniac villains chasing after him all the time. Is it worth having all of that power if there's no way to escape the responsibility that comes with it? I guess we don't really get a choice. You're not Spider-Man. You're not Spider-Man, Dad says with a chuckle. There's no flying goblins or multi-armed doctors for you to fight. Your powers are real. Mystique laughs, too. The hairs on my arms bristle up. Quit reading my thoughts, I think at Dad. And don't laugh at me. Sorry, Dad says, with a few more bursts of laughter. You've had enough for today. Or do you think you can handle some more? I can handle more, I say without hesitation. How can he expect me to settle for less than the full story? I think we're going to be here for a while. Let's take a seat. Dad directs us to the shop's inner sanctum, unbolts the thick door, and pulls apart the curtains with a swish. Come on, then. I follow, but Mystique stays behind. Should I leave? No, stay, Dad commands. I think it's time to tell Alex your part of the story. She sighs and Whoa, what happened to the line? And shifts into the room, slinking down at the... Slinking down at the table? Okay. Interesting choice of words. Dad rubs her arm, generating a cloud. Hold on. Dad rubs her arms, generating a cloud of kinetic heat above us. You'll need to tell him eventually. Might as well get it over with today. No, might as well get it over with, he coaxes. Very well, she groans. They have to be dating. Or something. I sit, full of unmoving energy, subtly shifting my ear back and forth between Miss Teak and Dad, like an eager puppy waiting for a pat on the head. Alex, I'd like to tell you a... Wait, hold on, let me see who's talking. La, 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 la. Alex, I'd like to tell you a story. Alex, I'd like to tell you a story. Please be quiet and listen. Don't ask any questions until I'm finished. I snap my fingers, unable to form words, but wanting to urge her on. She takes a deep breath and begins. My mother was a powerful psychometrist, as was her mother before her. I grew up watching them absorb information from the world around them and using their gifts to the benefit of others. They helped detectives find missing children. They identified tainted wells just by taking a drop from it within their palms. They did more ordinary things too, like helping women find out if their spouses were cheating, or telling people their history, being valued family, their history behind valued family heirlooms. As a young girl, I wanted anything more than to be following in their footsteps. I spent hours sitting blindfolded in my room, passing objects through my fingers, trying to strengthen my sense and touch, doing anything I could to be like them while I waited for my own gifts to develop. On my 12th birthday, I remember racing down the stairs to meet my mother, certain it was the day that I would become gifted like her. It wasn't that day, nor was it the next, or the next. On every birthday, the reality of my condition came more into focus. By the time I turned 18, I had to accept I was never going to develop gifts of my own. The family well of psychic activity dried up with me. This was not an easy truth to confess. I ran away from home and fell into a wild lifestyle. The most important thing in my life, the only gift I ever really wanted, wasn't mine to have. I break in when she pauses for breath. So that means you're a fraud. You've been lying to me this whole time, and you're basically stealing money from gullible people too. How can I believe anything you say? Anything you said was actually true. I remember thinking she sounded like any other cliche psychic in the movies or books. I should have realized it was all an act. I shouldn't have let myself be taken for a fool. Please, she sighs, wearied by the explanation and apparently by my resistance. How could she expect me to swallow all of this with no difficulty? Please, don't ask any questions until the end. I'll explain everything. I snap my agreement, then fan my fingers out on the table in front of me, as if to brace myself. When Mystique sees I'm not going to interrupt her again, she carries on with the story. Years passed, and I began to forget. The longing within my fingers. When I was 25, my mother called with news that my grandmother had passed. I came home to be with my mother and never left again. At that time, I realized we are more than our gifts, and the universe also has a plan for me and us, that it has its reasons for depriving me of the family gifts. I began to work alongside Mother at the family shop, learning the ways of the seer without being one myself. One day a nice man came to the shop for a reading. He wanted to find out if he was pursuing the right career path. The career affirmed his the cards affirmed his calling, and a year later we were married. The year after, we welcomed a baby girl into the world. Imagine my surprise when the 9-year-old girl came to wake me one morning, asking why her great-grandmother wasn't allowed to visit. Both her great-grandmothers were long since dead, but Chapri had held fast to the claim that she and Gigi stayed up late at night, talking about life and telling secrets. She wanted to know why they had to sneak around, and why I was angry with Gigi. I spent weeks trying to decide upon the best course of action. Shabri's psychic coming of age reminded me of the painful absence I had worked so hard to suppress. By the time I finally told her the truth about herself, she refused to believe me. With the passing of each year, she has become more and more closed to her gifts. But still, their effects plague her. She's convinced herself that I'm trying to mislead her. Why? I don't know. She realizes I am without gifts and assumes that psychic energy doesn't exist at all. Her grandmother's obvious talent is
YouTube now. John Wishwa /
not
Wolf is just
enough
fine. Wolf is just
to
fine.
prove-
Everyone is dead except us. Official music video attachment.
to prove otherwise. Dad coughs. Mystique waits, and then continues with her story. Near the end of the last summer, Chapri became agitated. She would call out in her dreams and talk to herself without realizing. The flowers, she'd cry. As the pull became stronger, the calls became more and more specific. She began referring to sweet blossoms by name. I asked her about it one day, but she had no idea what I was talking about. She wasn't pretending. She truly didn't realize. When I was able to identify your mother's shop and place its location, I knew I had to move Chapri to Grandin. The universe was very clear in its expectations. Still, Chapri didn't understand why we had to move away from Granny and away from her father's work. I had to tell her it was because of me, because of my work. The pharmacy next to Sweet Blossoms was sitting vacant, just waiting for us to arrive. When you stumbled by my shop on that first day, I knew why we had to come. I sensed the strength of your gifts, and I knew it was why we were pulled. And I knew it was you who pulled Shapri in. You see, even though I am not gifted myself, I can identify talent in others, and yours was unmistakable.
Me? Am I really that strong?
I gasped. Please wait. I'm almost finished. You are that strong. You're unmistakable. So is Shapri. When your father realized that she was, he came to make us leave. He begged, pleaded, threatened. He explained his desire to protect you, to keep other gifts away. I told him we couldn't leave, that this was the place Shapri needed to be. After weeks of fighting, we came to a solution. I was to keep Shapri away from you so that her abilities wouldn't force yours above the surface. And meanwhile, I would make yours available, should your powers reveal themselves, and should you have any questions. And when you came for answers, your father provided those that I could not. In exchange, he would give me no more trouble. He would even help me reach out to Shapri. I wait for her to continue, suppressing the billions of thoughts zooming through my mind, focusing on the story.
That's it?
That's it. I'm done, she says, with that high-pitched voice she's only used a couple of times before. That's it. I'm done.
Maybe it's her natural way of talking. Dad can't help but use his real voice when he's using his powers. Mystique uses a fake voice when she's pretending to have powers.
Do you believe what she's told you?
Dad asks, making me realize I've been quiet for far too long. I hesitate. Do I believe them? It's tough, but yeah, I think I do, I answer, thinking about the time Mystique went to use the phone and said Simi had called to cancel her session. But then, 5 minutes later, she came to the shift anyway. I guess pretending to have powers makes a bit more sense when you can make money from it. I don't think you need to sneak around, though. It really did look like you were having an affair. But we weren't, Mystique exclaims, even though I hadn't meant that to be a question. I still don't understand why you don't want my powers to come out, I whisper in exhaustion. Too much has happened already today. Dad says, they're more trouble than anything. I didn't want you to have to deal with that. You already got enough obstacles in your life. But Miss Teague said that not having gifts was the worst thing that ever happened to her, I protest, shaking my head. That's because she's never had them. She doesn't understand how hard the gifts can be on the bearer because she's never shouldered the burden. Miss Teague sniffs. Does she still have trouble talking about these things so much, even though so much time has passed? I know it's been hard, but I also know that without them, Simi would... I know it's been hard, but I also know without them, Simi would die. She still might die, but if I can save her, I'm going to. To me, it's worth whatever trouble they caused. Dad gulps and takes a deep breath of air.
Why are you so convinced? Why are you so convinced they're a burden? What happened when you were my age? Dad jumps to his feet and pushes his chair into the table. His voice is chipper and fresh, like he's just delivered the punchline to the world's best joke. It's completely out of place. Now that's a story for another day. Let's go home. On the way home, Dad tells me we need to keep all of this a secret from Mom, just for a little while longer, he promises. I stumble into bed completely exhausted by the day's events. My brain wants to continue this, thinking about everything I've just learned and how it's going to affect my life, but my drooping eyelids and tired muscles say I need to sleep. A deep, deep sleep. The next morning, my alarm doesn't wake me. Mom enters my room at 6:15 and pats my shoulder, gradually waking me up. Yesterday was pretty difficult for you, she coos. I yawn and sit up in bed. Please forgive your father. He didn't mean to upset us. Things will be better from here on out. I know it, she presses, in a voice near a whisper, making me wonder if she really believes what she's hearing or saying, or if she's trying to convince herself as well. It's okay now. I'm over it, I say, pushing the covers off and getting out of bed. We can talk. I know you're angry. Mom, I bend over to place my hands on her shoulder. I'm really not. I understand why he had to leave. I forgive him. Honestly. I smile to show her I'm not being sarcastic. She smooths her hands back and forth on my rumpled comforter and clears her throat. Well, that's good to hear. She clears her throat a second time. I guess I'll go get breakfast ready. Thank you, Alex. She finishes, kissing my shoulder before heading to the kitchen. She seems unnerved by the exchange, like she doesn't really believe I'm fine. This kind of irks me since she believes every little thing Dad tells her, no matter how difficult. I push these feelings back before they can take form. Just because I'm not angry at Dad anymore doesn't mean I should transfer that hostility to Mom. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why do I have to be mad all the time? The hot shower cools me off, and I march off into school with a mixture of pride and dread. The Spider-Man conundrum all over again. School brings me back to reality. It's exactly the same, even though everything else in the world has changed around me. Lunch is weird. That's the easiest way to put it. Shapri's usual energy is sucked away. She's not going on about reality TV or chemistry or her father or anything for that matter. She's just sitting at the table, mindlessly stirring her smelly goop of lunch, saying nothing. Brady announces himself coming up behind me and tousling my hair violently. He pushes my head down toward the table. Hey, freaks! Hey, freaks! He whines. Rage builds inside me. Now I'm the Hulk. My grip cements on my cane. I'm about to strike when Simi places her hand on my shoulder and sends her calming energy into me. Shapri stops eating, but doesn't react to Brady. Normally, she'd never let anyone get away with giving me a hard time, least of all Brady.
Not today, Brady,
Simi commands. Brady laughs as he walks away. The calming ebb halts and Simi rises to sit with Shapri. On the other side of the table.
What's wrong?
A gentle scratching sound comes from their direction as Shapri rubs. Scratching? Okay. Rubs Shapri's back in support. Nothing, Shapri answers in a hoarse monotone. I didn't sleep well last night.
Shapri, please. Something is obviously wrong. We're your friends. We want to help you feel better. Right, Alex?
Uh-huh, I say with my mouth full. I don't want Shapri to be upset, but I also don't want her to say anything about yesterday. She still probably doesn't believe what she heard. But what if she tells Shapri about the danger? Even as a joke. Well, Shapri starts, stretching the syllable out. I swallow my food before it's been fully chewed and break into a spurt of coughs. When I stop, Shapri continues. It's just... She takes some time to search for the right words. My mom. We had a big fight last night, and I can't get over it.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Simi answers.
Yeah,
it's just really hard, you know? I can't shake the feeling she's lying to me constantly. And no matter how many times she explains this psychic stuff, I can't believe her.
What was she saying?
I gulp and brace myself for what's ahead. Shapri could reveal everything to Simi with one misstep. She said psychic gifts are real, and that you and Alex have them. Simi nudges my foot under the table.
She did?
She did. She did say that, I agree, with perhaps a tad too much enthusiasm.
And you don't believe her?
Simi asks. I can't believe her. It's just too weird, Shapri says, going back into herself. The monotone resurfacing. The bench seat rises slightly as Simi leans forward, taking the added weight off the seat. Her heat and scent press forward across the table. How about now? She asks, like a doctor asking you to take deep breaths while he presses a cold stethoscope into your skin. Everything is quiet. I can't tell what's happening. A few moments later, Shapri talks. Again, her voice noticeably shaken. No, still no.
Well, nobody can force you to believe what you don't want to believe,
Simi says, returning to sit at my side of the table. But if you want to talk, I'm here. Alex, too. The three of us finish our lunches in silence. After history class, Simi and I walk over to Miss Teeks. I need to keep the appearance of a normal routine with her for her sake. Sorry about that noise from the mic. Now that I know Miss Teeks' secret, however, training with her seems like a colossal waste of time. Wouldn't it be easier to cut out the middleman and just go straight to Dad?
Simi wants to talk about lunch, and after several attempts to steer the conversation away from this topic, I give in. I care about her too much to disappoint her. What do you think happened last night? I've never seen Shapri act like that, Simi says. I don't know. I guess her mom tried to convince her of her gifts, and whatever she did was different from other times. Shapri was really shaken up. I think back to Dad's display of powers and how they sent Shapri reeling out of the shop. I wonder what Mystique could have done to get this kind of reaction out of her. I've never seen Shapri like this ever. Yeah, I say, kicking a pebble in my path, hoping my disinterest can be read to change the discussion. We're almost to Mystique's anyway. Simi stops walking. What convinced you? What? I say, stopping and tracing a few steps back to stand with her. My cane knocks against a fire hydrant. You had a hard time about accepting everything, too. What was the turning point? What made you believe? What can I tell her that would sound the truth without giving away anything about the real answer? My head reels. A million explanations zooming through my mind, but they all hint to Dax and the secret danger that Simi faces. Stop, I'm sorry, Simi says, bringing me into a hug and forcing calmness into my veins. I rest my head on hers and breathe in her scent. I was so busy searching for an answer, I forgot to control my face, my facial expressions. It's too late to make light now. She expects an answer that's deep and heavy. Something that would have brought that reaction out of me. I didn't mean to upset you. I know it's really difficult for some people when their gifts first surface. I didn't mean to pry. No, don't worry, I answer, in an attempt to sound more manly and strong. I remove myself from her embrace, even though I wouldn't mind staying in it for more than anything. I'll tell you everything when I'm ready. Promise. I hate that protecting Simi almost always involves lying to her.